see what the full Ace Combat 3, the game that Namco never fully allowed the rest of the world to see, looks and feels like. Oh, and sorry about that just there. I guess I'm a little too used to X being used to accept and circle to cancel. Only other game I can think of that does that combo is Final Fantasy VII. And like a lot of role-player games, we have the ability to name our main character. I think I'll just stick with the default. Not too sure how an emulated PlayStation 1 game's controls will handle, so let's stick with normal difficulty. Great, now I'm starting to feel nervous about this translation since some sections are still pretty Japanese. Again, didn't realize it was done loading up which memory card we could select yet. Definitely getting the feeling that digital stuff is going to be major in this game.
これは先にニューコムが発表したサンドバリー砂漠で
Based on those faction names, sounds like companies are directly waging wars, not countries. Dear God, we've entered Armored Core.
代表が今日正式にゼネラルリソースへの移管
Hey, I was watching that. Who changed the channel on me?
Power for Life, Newcom.
Huh. For some reason, I was expecting nothing but Japanese dialogue in this game. Guess I kinda forgot that most of Japan's Air Force tends to use a lot of English.
皆様の生活を支えるゼネラルグループ
Think I've got to give the edge in advertising to Newcom. Of course, maybe I'm just biased because I had a short English bit and showed some nice planes.
今日も誰かと明日はきっとあなたと
この美しい戦闘機で無限の大空へ自由に飛び続ける姿をご覧ください。
Wild Blue Yonder is laying it on a little thick.
しかし、このパイロットが背負った運命を知るとき、私たちは言葉を失うでしょう。
I've seen some terrible fates. Let's just see how tragic she really is.
生まれた時からシルバーストーン病に侵され、日の光の下では生きられないのです。
Ah! So she's essentially a vampire without the eternal youth or supernatural powers. That had to suck while growing up.
新しい時代の新しい科学。特にエレクトロスフィアによる世界で
Just how many channels are we gonna flip through before we're able to do anything?
ニューコムの母体となったのはよく知られていることです。
Then I'm going to have to assume the core of Newcom is going to be a major piece of the plot.
事実上、ゼネラルリソースの緊張状態が続いているのです。すでにエレクトロ
Why do I get the feeling those easing tensions aren't going to actually ease up as the game goes
ニュ
on?
ーコムの科学者たちはゼネラルリソースのそれを超えているとも噂され、長年にわたってその経済力で巨大な権力を誇示してきたゼネラルの時代が
Look, I get it. This is a brave new world. Can we please stop flipping channels to get information? I'm getting a little antsy with all this world building via news outlets.
公園で散歩はできないんで本を読んだり映画を見たり普通ですよ全然
Ooh. Well then, I'm sorry to have to tell you, girl, that the pilot relationships around here probably aren't gonna feel as close as Top Gun
もう
makes
夢
them
みたい
feel.
な話ですからただ最近思うのは体なんて人間にとって 心の入れ物です
Well, they're certainly setting the stage for a combination of Ghost in a Shell meets Armored Core, so
いつも心で飛んでるんです。体には翼がないけど、心の翼が私に空をくれたから。
Then I look forward to seeing you in the sky, milady. Though I somehow doubt any of us will dance all that gracefully. This is before the PlayStation 2 era.
あ、いないのか。じゃあいいけど、あれだ。お前がどういうつもりか知らないけど、ユーピオで飛行機乗りでいたいんなら、パーク司令には逆らうなって。
If you need to send a personal message to me to not disobey the commander, I'm probably not going to be a fan of it. By the way, who are you?
どっちにしても、ただの飛行機乗りには関係ないことだな。じゃあ、次の任務で。あ、今度はもうちょっと俺のサポートに対応してくれよな。
You haven't even had a first time yet. I'll fly however I can manage so long as you eventually put me in a cockpit, assuming that's what we're calling them these
業務
days.
連絡を口頭で伝えます。正式な署名は追って伝送されます。ユーピオ所属の搭乗員は本日付で無期限
I
の待
think
機命
R is better than is here.
簡単に言えば
I'll try not to
か
get
なり雲
too
行きが
anal with grammar mistakes in this fan translation. It's not like I can understand Japanese well enough to do it myself. Still, I do a lot of writing and my brain just jumps at anything it sees that needs correcting.
ただいま入りましたニュースを
Of
お伝え
course,
し
I've
ます
also made my fair share
地方
of
において
mistakes,
かね
so
てから緊張状態が
can't
続い
really
ていた
complain too
ゼネラ
much.
ルリソースとニューコムが交戦状態に突入した模様です。
Good, our first excuse to get into the air.
この攻撃はあくまでもゼネラルリソース側が行った違反行為への報復であるとのことです。
Yeah.
この事態を受け
When companies have the resources that countries usually have, negotiations can get pretty brutal. I'm not totally convinced I'll feel all that invested when the game's been too busy telling instead of showing so far, but anyway, let's save if only so we won't have to go through all that if we somehow screw up our very first mission. And since we've already gone through the save screen before, I think I'll skip the other occasions we do in this game. Now, I know I complained about us seeing so many television bits before we had any control over anything, but I don't really mind looking at various bits of information when I can choose when to do so. Archive just lets us see the various messages we've already seen. Search gives us some reading material. Not everything is translated in this section, and I seem to recall one piece of it causes the whole thing to crash, but there's still some stuff here worth looking at. This may be a blind playthrough, but there's no sense going through it without trying to learn as much as we can about the world around us. Oddly disappointed that Fiona didn't get anywhere near the sort of early game intro that Rena just did. In fact, I can't help thinking that all three of our squadron members should have gotten equal attention at the start, especially since the game has branching story paths where we get to stick around with each of them and a couple of others that we'll meet later on. Still debating with myself if I should do a full playthrough with all the alternate endings. I suppose it'll depend on how I feel about the first ending I get, really. Wow! The only guy has even less in his dossier than Fiona. Not that these personnel files are all that enlightening on their own. Of course, now it's making me wonder what Chopper and Pixie would have had in their own files had their respective games given us something like this. Well, that's enough of the reading material, at least for now. Think I'll check if the control scheme is the same as the other Ace Combats we've gone through. While I'm pretty sure it probably is, it won't hurt to check before our first mission. Can we see the button designations, please? Okay, not the most informative, and I'm not sure if we're even allowed to change much if we wanted to. And how am I supposed to know what response in neutral zone is most comfortable for me, especially before we actually started flying? And of course, when we start playing, I probably won't mess with those settings, if only because I'll want to get used to what the game considers standard.
本日午前7時50分頃、ニューコムがゼネラルリソース側に対して大規模な軍事行動を開始した。我々ユーピオは、
apparently they're using mostly planes we're completely unfamiliar with.
この行動を阻止せねばならない。なお、ニューコム側が警告を無視した場合は、実力行使もやむを得ない。
The fact that they sent the attack in the first place says they don't really give a damn about the police force. We've only got two choices right now, both of them solid fighters by today's standards, but probably way out of date in the game's timeline. Yeah, what the hell, we're taking the MiG. Wrong button. Sorry about that. Here's hoping that sort of thing doesn't happen too often as we go through the game. There doesn't seem to be any choices here just yet, so not much point to this screen yet. Well, it's about bloody time we finally got into the air. I know part of the delay is my fault, but still. I'm sorry to say that our allies are just decoration here. Not very surprising, even by the time Assault Horizon came out. This series couldn't really figure out how to make allies feel respectable in battle. The flight controls are pretty solid, although they feel a little stiffer than what Ace Combat 4 and everything after it was. Still, it's a very appreciated improvement over Ace Combat 2's jerky movements. There we go. I'd prefer to deal with the nearest enemies instead of just randomly flying all over the place, if possible. Apparently, in the future, bombers are just as easy to deal with as they are in modern combat, especially when their escorts aren't on the ball. That looked more like some kind of starfighter than anything meant for atmospheric dogfighting. Maybe that's why our MiG is doing reasonably well against it. Certainly doesn't help that the enemy doesn't seem very good at dogfighting. Not that this series really threw many worthy opponents at us in all of the later installments I've done so far. Just the odd ace here and there. And since I doubt we're gonna have an ace thrown at us in the first mission, this should be relatively trivial. Rina just said she understands, or she's telling us she's following us. And here I was hoping all the dialogue from various characters would be subtitled. Not that we're missing anything if that's supposed to be repeating chatter.
動員部隊の接近を確認した。直ちに迎撃態勢を取れ。
We'll do what we can, sir. Might be a little annoying, though. They've got the sun at their backs. Certainly a better approach angle than most enemies I've faced in these skies. How did the second missile fail to hit? Yes, I noticed we're painfully close to the water. So long as we don't actually ram into it, we should be fine. Right, let's see you avoid this one. Right, just 2 more aircraft to deal with, assuming more aren't on the way. There's volcano-shaped buildings. Please don't tell me this attack was on an area with nuclear power plants. Not what we've seen these attackers actually try to attack anything. They've been pretty busy just trying to avoid getting shot down. Right, knock down our first success. I'll try to make sure later clips have more action in them or end more quickly.
作戦の目的は達成された。今後も諸君の活躍には期待している。
I'll try not to let you down, sir. Indeed, it took long enough for us to get our first mission.
力ではどうしようもないことになるでしょう。ここで私たちユーピオの真価が問われるのは必死ね。
I'd say we proved we can at least hurt anyone who causes trouble.
いい感じだったよ。
あ、どうも。これはあなたに出す最初のメールになります。
And it's nice to hear from you, Rina. I hope you don't mind that Nemo's probably going to get more glory in the skies than you.
飛ぶことが増えるのかもしれない。今日のような飛び方なら見える敵をあなたが思うように叩けばいいと思う。
I'm sorry to say I wish I could say the same for